Welcome to Brunel University London. Thank you for joining our Culture and Evolution MSc webinar today, which will be presented by Dr. Michael Price. If you have any questions you would like to ask, please type them into the questions box on your screen, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, I'll now hand you over to Dr. Price.
Hi there, this is Michael. Thanks for being here today, and I'm happy to tell you everything you need to know about the Culture and Evolution MSc, new program at Brunel University London, and I'm the course director. So just a little bit of a roadmap about where we're going today in the webinar. First, I'll just tell you a little bit about who I am, because I understand you cannot see me, but you can just see my slides and hear my voice. My name is Michael Price. I've been at Brunel for 12 years. I have a background in evolutionary and cross-cultural psychology. I did field work in the Ecuadorian Amazon with the Shuar, some indigenous hunter horticulturalists, and I've done lots of psychological research, and I have a very interdisciplinary background, and very much a strong believer in the value of integrated cultural and evolutionary approaches. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute a little bit about Brunel, and then we will zoom in on the MSc specifically, tell you something about the goals and aims of the program, and then the content, what actual kind of material will you be studying and what you will be doing. I'll introduce you to all the staff members at the Center for Cultural and Evolution who will be running the MSc. And finally, I'll give you a chance to ask any questions you might have. So just to zoom out and tell you a little bit about Brunel University London and the City of London as well, if you're not familiar with it. Brunel University London is a lot of nice new gleaming buildings on campus, lots of investments in the campus in the last few years. So a really thriving Greater London campus with nice new dormitories and residencies, and really good tube access to central London, which is of course London, one of the greatest cities in the world. So all those opportunities, which will actually impact the MSc as well in terms of work placement opportunities and places to hear speakers, give lectures and that sort of thing. So just briefly, Brunel University is a medium-sized, about 15,500 students. It's a nice self-contained campus, so it's not sort of strewn throughout an urban environment. It's all a nice sort of pastoral, self-contained campus. You can live here, you can walk to your classes very easily. It's in a town called Uxbridge, which is in the western part of Greater London. It's very international, one of the most international universities in the world. So 2,500 at least students from countries besides the UK. That's over 110 other countries, so extremely international. So a great place to meet people from all over the world. Highly research intensive university. So for example, 90% of Brunel research was ranked of international quality, at least in the last research assessment exercise, which is something that happens in the UK every few years when they assess the quality of an institution's research. And just as I mentioned, recent expansion, so beautiful new facilities, residencies, athletic facilities, dining, lecture halls, nice new computer labs, really nice setup. And then Uxbridge itself, it's a perfect compromise, I think, between, it gives you great access to the City of London on the Metropolitan Piccadilly lines, so all that at your doorstep. But then also it's fairly suburban, so great access to all kinds of parks and woodlands and the Grand Union Canal, excellent trail walking and hiking. And it's much cheaper than central London, so you can actually afford to live out here. So it's got that in its favor as well. And then finally, it's a great shopping town. It's a historic market town, goes back hundreds of years, but has its own shopping district and nightlife all its own. And now talking about the university specifically a little more, Brunel University London is divided into 3 colleges. We are located in the College of Health and Life Sciences, which is divided into 2 departments. We're in the Department of Life Sciences, and within there, in that department, we're in the Division of Psychology. And when I say we, I mean the Center for Cultural and Evolution, which is a group of researchers in psychology who are united by this common interest in integrative studies of cultural and evolution and human behavior. So the MSc will be run entirely by researchers, or almost entirely by researchers from this Center for Cultural and Evolution. If you want to learn more about the center, then we have a nice website that you can visit. The URL is on the screen now, so feel free to explore our site. Now the MSc itself, just very broadly, our philosophy is that knowledge about human behavior is essential to success in many different areas of professional life and of course personal life as well. But so many industries, so many organizations deal with people. So of course, a lot of our students want to go on and do a PhD in psychology or some related behavioral or social science. This includes practicing clinical psychologists, but also academic research psychologists, but also in all kinds of industries like business, marketing, education, human resources, consulting, really any field where you're dealing with people. That sort of intelligence and skills about understanding human behavior is this MSc will serve you well. So we aim to provide you with this kind of in-depth knowledge, and also, of course, from a cross-cultural perspective too. So if you're interested in any kind of cross-cultural work, this would be an invaluable place to acquire those skills. And so we provide you with this knowledge through lectures, through discussion. So it's not just lectures, it's going to be heavily discussion oriented. And also through a research project of your own. You'll get to do your own dissertation project, a serious piece of research with the aim being for it to produce a scientific publication. And then we also have an optional work placement program, and I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. So our course integrates the two most profound influences on human behavior: evolution, and by that we mainly mean evolutionary biology, but we also mean evolution operates at many different levels, including the cultural level and even the level of the neural or learning level. So we're trying to integrate all these different evolutionary approaches in a way that recognizes and really makes the most of the importance of culture and understanding culture, not as something that's opposed to evolutionary processes, but it's something that's compatible with it and indeed enabled by it and produced by it. So the modules, and if you're not from the UK, modules is a word we use for what we call classes in North America, where I'm originally from. There's term one starting in the end of September. You'll be taking research methods and academic skills for the life sciences. And that will be with students in other programs in the life sciences too, because we want to give you a chance to acquire these sort of really basic foundational skills in research methods. And then you'll be taking historical and contemporary issues in psychology, just to make sure we have a firm, you have a firm background of psychology and how the topics we'll be learning about fit into that history. And then there'll be a module on the foundations of evolutionary psychology. And then in term two, there'll be a 10-credit module called Preparation for Research, where we're just gearing you up to do your own dissertation research project that we hope will produce a publication caliber piece of research. Then there's a module, Foundations of Cross-Cultural Psychology, and then Cross-Cultural and Evolutionary Psychology research methods. So these are going to be research methods that are more specific to the topics that we'll be learning about in the MSc. Then Evolutionary Perspectives on Culture, and then a Special Topics in Cultural Evolution module. And that content of that is going to vary flexibly because we want it to incorporate the most cutting edge and the research that members at the Center for Culture and Evolution are involved in, the topics they're most excited about, and the ones that you might want to get involved in yourself as part of your own research project. So that's going to be the most flexibly dynamic module in the program. And then in term three, which and then really through the spring and summer, you'll be working on your dissertation, collecting data, writing the research paper, and so that will be another 60 credits for the dissertation. And so here are some very important factors to consider about the MSc. One is that module schedule I just put up there was assuming 1 year of full-time study, but there's also the option to do 2 years of part-time study. So that those modules would be spread out over 2 years, give you a little more flexibility. By the way, I should mention too that all our modules, we're aiming to schedule them on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so that when you make the trip to Brunel, if you don't live nearby, you can attend your modules all in 1 day. And we do that to make it easier if you're working part-time while you're enrolled in the program. So, but yeah, you have the option to do the 2-year part-time program as well. And I'm not going to put all the way that's structured because there's just not room in this presentation. But if you're curious about that, I'll be happy to send you more information about how that part-time program is laid out. Then we also have an option to do a full-time work placement between, so after the end of term 2 and then before you start your dissertation, there will be time in there to fit in at least a couple of months of a work placement. I think it's 75 days, so probably more like 3 months. And Brunel has a really exceptional work placement office and program. And of course, we're in London, so there's all kinds of extraordinary opportunities to do work placements in a variety of organizations that are relevant to psychology and cross-cultural studies. So this includes hospitals and clinics, schools, often special needs schools, charities like mental health charities, victim support charities, all kinds of businesses. I mean, all businesses, have HR departments, and they often have people in marketing with psychology backgrounds, and consulting firms will employ psychologists. So all kinds of opportunities with businesses. And then prisons, for example, there's the forensic psychology, has to do with the criminal justice system. And then a lot of our work placement students will do actually research placements where they get involved with a university, either Brunel or another great local London university, and they get involved in a research project. Okay, and now getting near the end, I just want to introduce the staff at the Center for Culture and Evolution. So these are the people, these will be the people teaching the modules and supervising your dissertation. So I'll just run through everyone real quick. And these are presented in no particular order, but this is Nicholas Pound, who has a really strong background in evolutionary psychology, animal behavior, does a lot of stuff on inequality, socioeconomic inequality, and the effects of inequality on behavior, especially crime and homicide. Also an expert in facial morphometrics and hormones, the effects of hormones on behavior. And then Akam Schutzwall specializes in the evolution of emotions, especially jealousy, romantic jealousy, sexual jealousy, as well as surprise. Andrew Clark has background in animal behavior and evolutionary psychology. He's very interested in mating psychology. Jacques Launay does really great work on music, the psychology of music and dance, and coordinated social activities and the effects on social bonding. Professor David Schmidt is the center director, and he is one of the most highly cited cross-cultural psychologists in the world. He's very well known for his studies on sociosexuality and sexual strategies cross-culturally. He's done these massive studies involving over 40, 50 cultures at a time, comparing behavior from a very extensive cross-cultural perspective. Then Toshi Omada is a cross-cultural psychologist who specializes in prosocial behavior and does a lot of work in Japan as well as the UK and other countries. Myself, I've already talked about a little bit about my research. I do a lot in moral psychology. I've become extremely interested recently in religiosity and the evolution of religious systems. Stanley Gaines is a social psychologist who does a lot of great work on relationships and ethnicity. And then these last three folks have joined us fairly recently, which is great because we have a lot of young, energetic staff who are really eager to get MSc students involved in their research programs, and they have very active, very dynamic research programs. So one of these is Matthias Goebel, who does a lot of stuff on leadership and uses pretty sophisticated techniques in cognitive neuroscience, including eye tracking, which we have an eye tracker here at Brunel to look at attention and leadership scenarios. Dr. Ayanna Willard is a cross-cultural psychologist / anthropologist who does field work. I think she's in the field right now in Mauritius. Very interested in religion and sort of cross-cultural manifestations of the psychology of religion. And then finally, we have Mihail Dabara, who does a lot of work in Darwinian medicine and a lot of cross-cultural focus on public health and the psychology of disgust and health behaviors cross-culturally. So we have an extremely diverse group of experts who are all involved in active research programs and eager to get MSc students involved in their own projects. So you'll be able to choose who you would prefer to have as your dissertation supervisor when you come here. So that's about all I wanted to cover. I'll just mention that applications are open for the next few weeks, open until early September. There's a website you can visit for more information about the MSc. I'm your contact. If you have questions, please feel free to email me at the email address that's on the screen. Pretty easy to remember. It's michael.price@Brunel. And then for further inquiries, there's an email address for general inquiries that don't have to do specifically with the MSc. So yeah, I'm going to open it up to you guys now and invite you to ask any questions you might have.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Michael. A very informative presentation. So like Michael said, if you do have any questions, please do take the opportunity to ask them now by typing them into the question box that's on your screen. We have a few that's come in already, so I'll just read them out. Right. So we have our first one here from Robert, who asked, can you give us a few examples of research projects that students have taken part in?
Well, this is the first year of this particular MSc, but I can tell you in the past we've had students in undergraduate and MSc programs who do research, for example, on I had a number of students on my own projects looking at body size and body shape, and so anthropometric aspects of personality and morality and political psychology. So we actually have I was using a 3D body scanner and looking at things like upper body size, upper body muscularity in males, and predicting political orientations and moral orientations and ideas about equality versus inequality, for example, based on anthropometric indicators. Somebody like Nick Pound is involved in research right now, involves students as well on inequality, so looking at the effects of living in a society where there's a lot of inequality, a lot of rich people, a lot of poor people, and how does that affect risk-taking behavior, including violent behavior and homicide. So that's a project he's very involved in now. It's Jacques Linné, for example. I'm sort of these are just coming to my head in a fairly arbitrary way, but Jacques Linné has a lot of students involved in research on music and social bonding. So look at for example, different types of music and different types of dance, and how does the extent to which a dance, for example, is coordinated versus synchronized, how does that affect feelings of social bonding? So yeah, I mean, really, it's in the research projects you can pursue too, they're not limited to the specific interests of the staff. You're welcome to join a project that they have going, but then you can also come up with your own project and find somebody who'll supervise you on a topic that's particularly interesting to you. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Great. We have another question here. This is from Mariana, who asked, what are the entry requirements for this program?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can actually answer you very specifically because I have the, I think probably it's better if I just read them out. So I have the brochure, or at least I did have it. You don't have the postgraduate brochure, do you?
So you refer to the website though, so I'm not.
Okay. Why don't you bring those up?
Yeah.
Can we move? I'll come back to that question in just a minute.
Okay.
We're going to bring them up. I just don't want to misspeak. I want to make sure I read out the official version of them. Yeah.
But while we look for that, we'll go on to another question. This is again from Robert, who asks, what type of equipment or technology do students need to know how to use on this program?
Equipment or technology? Well, there's no requirement for really specific technical skills. It depends on the project you're using. So if you're, for example, measuring hormones, you will be taught what you need to know in order to take sort of salivary assays. Say if you're measuring testosterone. If you're doing an eye tracking study, say with Matthias Goebel on attention that's paid, visual attention paid to leadership, leaders in leadership contexts, then you would need to learn how to use the eye tracker. So it really depends on the project you're involved in. In terms of sort of statistical methodological knowledge, you'll be taught everything you need to know. A lot of our students will do survey research, so they'll have an online survey or an online experiment as well, where there's no specific technological knowledge required. I mean, you have to learn how to use the Qualtrics online platform, but that's something you can sort of just learn when you get here. So we don't have any particular expectations about pre-existing technological expertise. And so I do have the entry requirements here, so I'll just read them out. The minimum entry requirement is an upper second class or 2.1 honors degree or overseas equivalent in psychology, anthropology, biology, or a related subject in psychology, anthropology, biology, or in a related subject in the psychological, social, behavioral, or life sciences, either as single honors or as a major component of a joint honors degree. Applicants with other honors degrees and or with relevant work experience are also eligible to apply. So if you have any questions about whether you are eligible or not, then you can feel free to email me and ask me before you actually apply, or just go ahead and apply, and we're going to review every application on an individual basis, and we'll take individual experience, for example, work experience, into account. So yeah, when in doubt, please ask me or just go ahead and apply.
Fantastic. So we have no more questions at the moment, so we'll keep the webinar open for another minute or so. If you do have any questions, please do take the opportunity to ask them, as it's a fantastic chance to get some feedback from an academic on the course. So we'll keep it open for just a little bit longer. Okay, so we have no further questions, and I hope you found the session today very, very informative. Just a few housekeeping rules. If you do have any questions or you'd like to find out more information about the course, very first thing you can do is check out the link which is on your screen right now. That has a lot more detail on the course, including the entry requirements, as well as additional information. If you want to ask any further questions, please do not hesitate to email Dr. Price. I'm sure you won't mind. Or if you have any generic or general questions even about Brunel University, you can email our inquiries@brunel.ac.uk email address. I'd like to thank you for joining us, and I'll just confirm that we will send out a recording of this webinar in a couple of weeks' time. Again, thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll see you at Brunel in September.